This video is sponsored by Green Man Gaming. Get games at affordable prices for various platforms. Click the link in the description below to check it out. Hello guys, this is Doran's Movies, and today I will be giving you top 5 worst crimes of the Horde. As a counter to the previous Alliance video, I will be covering atrocities committed by the Horde throughout history. So, without further ado, let's get into the lore. Number 5. Ashenvale War. Apart from Ashenvale being abused by the Horde previously in order to harvest supplies, most recently attacks became a lot more aggressive. Shortly after the Shattering, Garrosh launched a great offensive into Ashenvale. He not only sent his troops, but also unleashed captured Magnator and Proto-Drakes brought in from Northrend, unleashing them upon Night Elven forces. The plan was to build another city alike Orgrimmar within the center of Ashenvale. Even Tyrande was wounded in this conflict, but only with the help of Varian and Gen's army of Organ did the tide of battle turn. This did not stop the war, however. Horde further launched many attacks within the zone, and various nefarious methods were used. An Orcish warlock poisoned the forest heart, corrupted water elementals were used, Astranar was firebombed, and many further bombings were planned. The war in Ashenvale ended turning into Lance's favor, but nevertheless, this still significantly damaged the forest. Even though this was mostly just a war, the way it was carried out was most definitely a crime. Targeting civilian areas, desecrating the dead, desecrating religious sites, as well as the use of many destructive weapons with no thoughts about the victims. Number 4. The War in Gilneas. As the all-out war started with Garrosh, the war chief was particularly interested in securing new ports in the eastern kingdoms. Under his orders, Sylvanas was commanded to conquer the lands of Gilneas for their ports and resources. Seeing as the kingdom faced off civil war and the Worgen threat, as well as the effects of the Shattering, they were in a significantly weakened state. The barrier reefs protecting Gilneas shattered, and as the parts of the wall were exposed, the Forsaken jumped on this opportunity. A significant offensive was then launched, starting the war. Even though initially the Forsaken were winning, much of the land was retaken by the Alliance and the Undead were pushed back. Still, however, the conflict was unresolved. Even though most of this was war, as usual, the reason this is a crime is firstly because the attack was unprovoked against a neutral nation. Before the invasion, Gilneas was not a part of the Alliance and therefore was not an enemy of the Horde and their target. Also, the Forsaken employed plague, targeted civilian centers, and used many other nefarious methods. Even though in some parts Sylvanas acted single-handedly, the bulk of the orders were given by the war chief directly. Number 3. Enslavement of a Naru. Before the invasion of Outland began, Khadgar and Velen reached out to the Naru for help. Because the Army of the Light couldn't do much to help the Naru, Adal, Muru, and Oros volunteered to help Outland, arriving with Tempest Keep. Unexpectedly, Kiltas stormed Tempest Keep and captured Muru, sending him to Quel'Thalas, back to his people. There, they decided to feed upon his energies and to harness the light by force. Most of the Blood Elves opposed this abuse, but nevertheless it continued due to the accomplishments of the Blood Knights and the fact that they could use this newfound power to prove their might to the Horde. Thrall and Cairn were aware and were against this morally, but still let it happen because of the accomplishments. Later on, Kiltas would turn against his own people and steal Muru, and as he was sufficiently drained of his energies, he began to enter a darkened state. When Kiltas and Kil'jaeden were defeated, Muru would be used to reignite the Sunwell, and the Blood Elves would turn to more noble ways of using the light. Even though the Naru had forgiven them and they realized it was a mistake, this still does not excuse their actions. The Horde leadership was well aware of this abuse, but they all let it slide because it gave them power. Number 2. The Plague. Soon after the Forsaken freed themselves, they started developing their own form of the plague, an altered version of the Plague of Undeath. While the Plague of Undeath raised mostly humans into undead, this plague was meant to mainly just be destructive. For years it was refined and improved, becoming more and more deadly. The first major use of it was supposed to be against the Scourge, which is why it was shipped in large quantities to Northland. However, Grand Apothecary Puterus turned against Sylvanas and unleashed its full potency upon the Horde and the Alliance forces, as well as the Scourge. This in itself was a significant war crime, even though not exactly orchestrated by the Horde. The Horde itself banned the use of the fully powered plague, but they still allowed a weaker version of it. Regardless, the Forsaken used it significantly, even completely obliterating towns like South Shore with it. What makes this unethical isn't just the destruction, but a type of death and agony and suffering caused by the plague, essentially melting enemies down to their bones. Apart from this, the plague also completely contaminates the area, making it uninhabitable for a period of time. And lastly, number 1, the Mana Bomb. Around the time of Cataclysm, a big part of Garrosh's ambitions was to conquer the whole of Kalimdor and get it under the rule of the Horde. This created a pretty big conflict around most of Kalimdor between the Horde and the Alliance. Terramore played an important role here as it tried to establish a military line between the Night Elven territory and their own. They had constructed a highway that connected Terramore to Dustswallow Marsh, allowing the Alliance to move quickly and to supply their troops in Southern Barrens. As Northwatch Hold is utterly destroyed in a surprise attack, the Horde makes a push for Terramore. 3 assaults occur, and due to the treachery of Talon Songweaver, a Kirin mage that worked as a spy for Garrosh, Horde forces storm into the city. However, the Alliance, with the help of the Blue Dragon Caligos, manages to drive them out. Thinking they had won, some warriors departed searching for the traitor, but no one expected what would happen subsequently. A mana bomb, empowered by the stolen focusing iris, flew over the city and completely obliterated it. The explosion was so strong that the only people that survived were those that were not in the city and Jaina, who was teleported out by Ronan. The actual blast was localized, minimized and put under control, but nevertheless was extremely powerful. With this action, Garrosh took the war to a whole new level and showed that he would destroy the Alliance by any means necessary. Alright, and that is all I have for this video. Do leave your thoughts below on what you think, and don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really helps out and keeps all the content going. Thanks a lot for taking time out of the day to watch this video, and see you next time.